Welcome back. I'm sure the popularity of the people mover type adaptation of commercial vans took a lot of car manufacturers by surprise. I don't think they expected recreational and private motorists to take them to their hearts as much as they did, and for that reason a lot of those vans leave a lot to be desired in the context of private motoring, particularly from the point of view of road adhesion. They certainly, when they're lightly loaded, don't have the sort of road adhesion that you expect or you get from a motor car. And secondly, from the point of view of protection in a front end preng. These vehicles were originally designed to operate in an urban environment where they didn't go very fast and where they weren't normally subjected to highway conditions, and therefore leg protection, particularly for the passengers, wasn't very good at all. Now in 1990, Toyota addressed all of these problems, assessed the popularity of the vehicle, and came out with a vehicle which, in my personal opinion, is probably one of the most spectacular breakthroughs in vehicle design we've seen in the last couple of decades. Of course, it's the Toyota Tarago, which is stunning as far as appearance goes, but its innovation goes a lot deeper than just the appearance. The styling is, as I said, quite eye-catching. It has great practical advantages in that the vehicle is nowhere near as subject to wind gusts as its more shoebox-like counterparts are. So therefore it's a lot easier to handle on the road, particularly in high crosswind situations. And also that low slopey windscreen certainly aids the vehicle's penetration and helps with its quite spectacularly low fuel consumption. But the basic design philosophy of this vehicle was that rather than go to a commercial vehicle and adapt that commercial vehicle for private use, Toyota started with a clean sheet, designed a chassis and power unit combination and drivetrain combination which was innovative in that the engine is laid virtually flat on its side in the centre of the chassis. It's a mid-engine configuration, so the engine doesn't impinge on the interior room in the car. They designed it to extremely high passenger vehicle standards, particularly from the point of view of road holding, and then they enveloped it with a body which is absolutely perfect from an ergodynamic point of view. In other words, the seating positions, the view out of the vehicle, the protection of the occupants in the event of collision, whether the collision comes from the front, the side or the back, and all other aspects of the basic design of the vehicle were looked at very carefully, and they came up with a vehicle which of course won the NRMA New South Wales's Vehicle of the Year. Now we recently had to make a trip from the Gold Coast to Sydney and take Benny and a lot of gear along, and my sedan simply wasn't big enough to carry what we had to, so I rang Chris Buth, Queensland Regional Sales Manager, and suggested that he might like to make a Tarago available for the trip. Chris very kindly did so, and I was able to put about 3,500 k's on the vehicle and assess it not only in highway situation between the Gold Coast and Sydney and return, but also driving around Sydney, driving around Newcastle. So I was also able to find out how the vehicle performed in an urban situation, which I suspect is the main environment in which they'll be used. Now, one of the great advantages of having that basic design philosophy of designing the vehicle from scratch to do the job it was designed to do is that because of the engine laid on its side amidships, and because of the extremely wide track for a relatively short wheelbase, this car virtually has a wheel in each corner, and it eliminates the main bugbear of those converted commercial vehicles, and that is hobby horsing. In other words, pitching up and down on the front suspension, and also, and more particularly, body roll. The rear axle has been located in such a way that the vehicle exhibits understeer up to quite high speeds on curved sections of the road, and that's the ideal setup. I didn't go to the extent of testing to see what the transition from understeer to oversteer was like, because I didn't feel it necessary to push the vehicle that hard. But covering some fairly long distances at high speed through some quite windy roads, I found that the vehicle handled absolutely superbly. In fact, to the extent where I mentioned the ergodynamics a little earlier. The seats are extremely comfortable. They have high backs. They're long enough to support you under the knees. The steering wheel is adjustable for rake and angle, and the dash array and the instrument array is very easy to read, and you have excellent view outside the vehicle. So it's a very comfortable vehicle to drive, and that comfort is not negated by any nasty handling characteristics when you're on the road. It really is a great pleasure to drive this vehicle. Apart from that, the interior is convertible to quite a high degree so that you can change it around to whatever degree you like. It has also exhibited excellent fuel economy. Now, there were two things that I didn't like about the car. One was my left hand didn't have the subtlety to come to terms with the 5-speed floor gear shift lever. Now, it took me about 500 or 600 k's before I could comfortably and easily shift up and down, although Monica got in the car and drove it from kilometre 1 with no problems whatsoever. And the second thing I particularly disliked about the Tarago was having to give it back to Toyota. We'll be back right after this break.